They say some scars are warnings. Others are graves for the living. The Alpha King's scar was both a jagged, silver line carved deep across his chest, glowing faintly under moonlight like a brand from something unholy. It wasn't the scar itself that terrified his pack. It was what it had done to him. The mark had killed his ability to feel the mate bond, severed him from the one connection that made wolves whole. And in a world where power was measured in dominance and loyalty in blood, a king without a bond was a king without mercy. No one touched him. No one looked too long. And absolutely no one asked about the scar. Until she did. Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome to a story that's about to wreck you in the best way possible. I'm so glad you're here. Seriously, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. And hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, do me a favor and hit that button right now. Trust me, you're going to want to catch every twist in this one. This is a story about fear, fate, and a girl who dared to touch the untouchable. Let's dive in. The dungeons beneath the Blackthorn estate smelled like iron and dampstone, a place where defiance came to die. Ella had been dragged here 3 days ago, wrists bound, barefoot, shivering in a thin dress that did nothing against the cold. She was human fragile, breakable, worthless in the eyes of wolves. The pack soldiers who'd raided her village hadn't even bothered to learn her name. She was just another servant, another body to scrub floors and stay silent. But Ella had learned quickly, silence was survival. She knelt now in the great hall, head bowed, hands folded, trying to make herself invisible among the dozen other new servants lined up for inspection. The hall was massive, all dark wood and stone pillars, with torches casting flickering shadows that made the wolves' eyes glow like embers. The air buzzed with tension, thick and suffocating. Everyone was waiting for him. Eyes down, hissed the woman beside her, an older wolf with graying hair and a scar across her jaw. When the Alpha King enters, you don't look up. You don't breathe loud. You don't exist. Understand? Ella nodded, her heart hammering. She'd heard the whispers. The Alpha King, Zane Blackthorn, was a legend wrapped in nightmares. Ruthless. Cold. Untouchable. They said he'd killed his own beta for questioning an order. They said his eyes were black as pitch, that his wolf was so massive it blotted out the moon. They said the scar on his chest wasn't just a wound, it was cursed. The double doors at the far end of the hall slammed open. The temperature dropped. Ella felt it before she saw him, a pressure in the air, like a storm about to break. The wolves around her went rigid, heads bowed so low their chins touched their chests. Even the torches seemed to flicker lower, as if the fire itself was afraid. And then he walked in. Alpha King Zane Blackthorn moved like a predator who had nothing left to prove. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black with silver accents that caught the firelight. His presence didn't just fill the room, it devoured it. His face was all sharp angles and cold beauty, the kind that made you forget to breathe. Dark hair, pale skin, and eyes, his eyes, so pale they were almost silver, empty and ancient, and utterly devoid of warmth. But it was the scar that held Ella's gaze. She didn't mean to look. She knew better. But her eyes betrayed her, lifting just enough to catch a glimpse of his chest through the open collar of his shirt. The scar ran diagonally from his left shoulder to his sternum, a jagged, silver line that seemed to pulse faintly, like it had a heartbeat of its own. Report, Zane said, his voice low and rough, the kind of voice that could command armies or end lives with equal ease. The head servant, a wiry man named Cade, stepped forward, trembling. Your Majesty, the new servants have been processed. 12 humans, all healthy, all humans. Zane's lip curled in distaste. Why? The last raid, sire. The village had no wolves only. I don't care. Zane's gaze swept over the line of kneeling servants, cold and dismissive. Put them in the kitchens. The stables. Anywhere they won't be seen. Yes, Your Majesty. Ella kept her head down, relief flooding through her. It's over. He didn't notice me. I'm safe. But then Zane stopped walking. The silence stretched, taut as a bowstring. Ella felt his gaze on her like a weight, pressing down on her skull. Her lungs refused to work. Her pulse roared in her ears. "You," Zane said. "No. No, no, no. Look at me." Ella's body obeyed before her mind could catch up. She lifted her head, slowly, and met the Alpha King's eyes. They were colder than she'd imagined. Empty. But beneath the ice, something flickered, just for a second, something almost like recognition. "What's your name?" Zane asked, his tone flat, uninterested. "Ella," she whispered. "Ella," he repeated, as if testing the shape of it. His gaze dropped to her hands, still folded in her lap, then back to her face. "You're trembling." Her voice cracked. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty." "Sorry for what?" For looking at you." Zane tilted his head, a predator studying prey. "And yet, you're still doing it." Ella's breath hitched. She should look away. She should bow her head and beg forgiveness. But something in his eyes held her frozen, a challenge, maybe, or a test. "I didn't mean to offend you," she said quietly. "Offend me?" Zane's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "You're human. You couldn't offend me if you tried." The words should have stung, but Ella heard something else beneath them. Exhaustion. Loneliness. Pain. Before she could stop herself, she spoke. "Does it hurt?" The hall went deathly silent. Zane went very, very still. "What did you just say?" Ella's heart stopped. Stupid. Stupid, stupid, stupid. But she couldn't take it back now. She swallowed hard, her voice barely a whisper. "Your scar. Does it hurt?" For a moment, Zane just stared at her. Then his expression shifted, something dark and dangerous flickering across his face. He moved forward, closing the distance between them in 2 long strides, and crouched down so they were eye level. "No one," he said softly, each word deliberate and sharp as a blade, "asks me about my scar." "I'm sorry," Ella breathed. You just what?" "I just thought you looked like you were in pain." Zane's eyes narrowed. "You thought wrong." But Ella saw it, the lie. It was there in the tension of his jaw, the way his hand twitched toward his chest before he stopped himself. He was in pain. He'd been in pain for so long he'd forgotten what it felt like not to be. Without thinking, Ella reached out. Her fingertips brushed the edge of his scar, just above his collarbone, barely a touch, feather-light and fleeting. The reaction was instant. Zane sucked in a sharp breath, his entire body going rigid. His hand shot out and grabbed her wrist, grip like iron, his eyes flaring wide with something that looked like shock or terror. And then the scar flared. Silver light exploded outward, blinding and cold, crackling through the air like lightning. Ella gasped as the light wrapped around her wrist, spiraling up her arm, sinking into her skin. It didn't hurt. It should have, but instead it felt like coming home, like waking up, like remembering something she'd forgotten a lifetime ago. Zane jerked back, releasing her as if she'd burned him. He staggered to his feet, chest heaving, staring at her with wild, disbelieving eyes. His voice cracked. "What are you?" Ella stared at her hand, at the faint silver glow still fading from her fingertips. She didn't understand. She didn't know what had just happened. But she felt it, a pull, deep in her chest, like a thread tied around her heart, stretching toward him. "I don't know," she whispered. Zane took another step back, his face a mask of fury and confusion. "Get her out of here," he snarled to Cade. "Lock her in the East Wing. No one goes near her. No one touches her." "Your Majesty." "No." Soldiers moved forward, grabbing Ella by the arms and hauling her to her feet. She didn't resist. She couldn't. Her mind was spinning, her body still humming with that strange, impossible energy. As they dragged her toward the doors, she looked back one last time. Zane stood in the center of the hall, hand pressed against his scar, staring after her with an expression she couldn't name. And for the first time since she'd arrived at Blackthorn, Ella wasn't afraid. She was curious. The East Wing was a prison dressed as luxury. Ella sat on the edge of a 4-poster bed draped in midnight blue silk, staring at her hands. The silver glow had faded hours ago, but she could still feel it, a warmth beneath her skin, pulsing faintly in rhythm with her heartbeat. The room they'd locked her in was beautiful in a cold, untouched way. Tall windows overlooking endless forest. A fireplace that crackled with fresh logs. Furniture that probably cost more than her entire village. But the door was locked from the outside. She was a prisoner. A beautiful one, but a prisoner nonetheless. What did I do? The question circled her mind endlessly. She'd touched him barely, just a brush of fingertips, and the world had shifted. That scar, that cursed mark everyone whispered about, had come alive under her touch. And the Alpha King, the man who terrified even his own wolves, had looked at her like she was a ghost. What are you? Ella wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the fire. She didn't have an answer. She was nobody. Just a human girl from a farming village that no longer existed. Her parents were dead. Fever took them 2 winters ago. She had no siblings, no special talents, nothing that would explain why touching the most dangerous wolf in the realm had felt like. Like recognition. Like her soul had been searching for something and finally, impossibly, found it. The lock clicked. Ella's head snapped up as the door swung open. A woman entered, tall, elegant, with copper-red hair braided in an intricate crown and amber eyes that assessed Ella with the precision of a predator. She wore deep green robes that marked her as someone important. Behind her, 2 guards took positions outside the door. You're awake. Good. The woman's voice was cool, controlled. She closed the door and moved to the window, her back to Ella. My name is Mara. I'm the Alpha King's chief advisor. And you, little human, have created quite the problem. Ella stood slowly, keeping the bed between them. I didn't mean to. Didn't mean to what? Touch him? Activate a seal that's been dormant for 5 years? Make the Alpha King look vulnerable in front of his entire court. Mara turned, one eyebrow raised. Which part didn't you mean? I don't understand what happened, Ella said quietly. I saw his scar and I wanted to help. Help. Mara laughed, but there was no humor in it. Do you have any idea what that scar is? What it means? Ella shook her head. Mara studied her for a long moment, then sighed. 5 years ago, Alpha King Zane was the strongest wolf in the realm. Powerful, feared, respected. He had everything except his mate. When he finally found her, it should have been his greatest triumph. She paused, something like sadness flickering across her face. Instead, it nearly destroyed him. What happened? A prophecy, Mara said bitterly. Ancient, dark, and specific. It said that if the Alpha King claimed his true mate, their bond would trigger a curse that would rip through the pack, killing everyone he loved. His beta, his guards, his people, all of them dead. The price of his happiness was their lives. Ella's breath caught. That's horrible. It was impossible, Mara continued. Zane couldn't reject his mate. The bond was too strong. But he couldn't claim her either. So he did the only thing he could. She gestured toward Ella. He found a witch. A powerful one. And he asked her to seal the bond away. To bind his mate's soul to a scar, severing the connection before it could activate the curse. He sealed his own mate? Ella whispered, horror creeping through her. He saved his pack, Mara corrected sharply. The witch performed the ritual. Zane's mate, a wolf named Arya, collapsed. Her soul was torn away, bound into the scar. Her body survived, but without her soul, without the bond. Mara's voice softened. She lived for 3 days. Then her heart simply stopped. Ella pressed a hand to her chest, feeling sick. He killed her to save everyone else. He sacrificed her. There's a difference. Mara moved closer, her amber eyes intense. The seal was supposed to be permanent. Unbreakable. It's kept Zane alive, kept the curse dormant, kept the pack safe for 5 years. No one has been able to touch that scar without suffering. It burns anyone who tries, wolf or human. But I touched it, Ella said, her voice barely audible. And it didn't burn me. No. Mara stopped directly in front of her, searching her face. It welcomed you. The seal recognized you, responded to you. Which means one of two things. Either you're somehow connected to the original mate bond. She paused, letting the weight of the word settle. Or you are the mate, reborn. The room tilted. Ella grabbed the bedpost for support. That's impossible. I'm human. I don't have a wolf. I'm not. Arya didn't have memories of her past life either, Mara interrupted. Reincarnation strips away everything wolf, memories, power. You'd be born completely new, with no knowledge of what you once were. Just a human girl with a soul that still remembers, deep down, what it lost. Ella shook her head violently. No, you're wrong. I can't be. Can you explain what happened in that hall? Mara challenged. Can you explain why the seal opened for you? Why Zane looked at you like he'd seen a ghost? Ella couldn't. She didn't have answers. But the pull she'd felt, that invisible thread connecting her to the Alpha King, it hadn't disappeared. Even now, locked away in this room, she could feel it tugging at her chest, whispering that he was close. That he was hurting. What happens now? Ella asked, her voice shaking. Mara's expression softened, just slightly. Now, you stay here. Under guard. Until Zane decides what to do with you. She moved toward the door, then paused. A word of advice, Ella. If you value your life, don't touch him again. That seal is the only thing keeping the curse at bay. Break it, and you won't just kill Zane. You'll destroy everyone in this pack. The door closed with a final, damning click. Ella sank onto the bed, her mind reeling. Reborn. His mate. The curse. It was insane. Impossible. But deep in her chest, where that silver warmth still pulsed, something whispered that it was true. Ella didn't sleep that night. How could she? Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the Alpha King's face, the shock, the fear, the desperate confusion in those pale silver eyes. She felt the scar pulse beneath her fingertips, heard Mara's words echoing in her mind like a death sentence. You are the mate, reborn. Break the seal, and you'll destroy everyone. By dawn, Ella had worn a path in the carpet from pacing. She stood at the window, watching the sun bleed gold across the forest canopy when she heard it. A sound. Faint, guttural. Coming from somewhere beyond her locked door. Pain. Someone was in pain. Ella pressed her ear to the door, her heart racing. The sound came again, a low, agonized groan, like a wounded animal trying not to scream. It was coming from down the hall. Close. Zane. She didn't know how she knew. She just did. That invisible thread in her chest pulled taut, vibrating with his suffering. Hello. She called, knocking on the door. Is someone there? What's happening? No answer. Just another muffled sound of agony. Ella grabbed the door handle and twisted. Locked, of course. But the wood was old, the mechanism simple. She'd picked locks before, back in her village, when the winter had been harsh and locked storage sheds were the only thing between her neighbors and starvation. She grabbed a hairpin from the dresser, bent it, and worked it into the lock. Her hands shook, but muscle memory took over. 30 seconds later, the lock clicked open. The hallway was empty, lit only by guttering torches. The sound was louder now, coming from a room at the end of the corridor, massive double doors, slightly ajar. Ella moved toward them, every instinct screaming at her to run the other way. But she couldn't. Not when he sounded like that. She pushed the door open. The Alpha King's chambers were vast, dark stone, floor-to-ceiling windows, furniture that looked like it had been carved from midnight itself. But Ella barely noticed. Her entire focus locked on the figure kneeling in the center of the room. Zane, shirtless on his knees, his hands braced against the floor. Sweat dripped from his hair, his entire body trembling with the effort of staying upright. And his scar, his scar was glowing that same silver light, but wrong. Fractured. Like cracks spreading through ice, pulsing with each ragged breath he took. Your Majesty, Ella breathed, moving forward without thinking. Zane's head snapped up. His eyes were wild, more wolf than man, glowing with an otherworldly light. Get out, he snarled, his voice distorted. Now. You're hurt. I said get out. He roared, and the windows rattled with the force of it. But Ella had spent her entire life around pain. She'd nursed her dying parents, held her mother's hand while fever burned her alive. She knew suffering when she saw it. And she knew that behind Zane's rage was pure, unadulterated terror. He wasn't angry at her. He was afraid for her. I can help, Ella said, taking another step closer. You'll kill me, Zane gasped. His arms gave out, and he collapsed forward, catching himself at the last second. The seal, it's breaking. You touched it, and now he cut off with another groan, his back arching as the scar flared brighter. Breaking? Ella dropped to her knees beside him, ignoring every warning Mara had given her. How do I stop it? You can't. Zane's head hung low, his dark hair curtaining his face. It's been dormant for 5 years. Your touch woke something that should have stayed buried. Now he gasped. It's trying to complete the bond. And if it does, the curse activates, Ella finished. Her stomach twisted with guilt. This is my fault. I never should have touched you. No. Zane lifted his head, and for the first time, Ella saw something other than coldness in his eyes. Anguish. Raw and devastating. It's mine. I should have let you go the moment I saw you. The second I felt, he stopped, his jaw clenching. Felt what? Zane looked away. Nothing. It doesn't matter. But it did matter. Ella could see it written across every line of his face. You felt the bond, she whispered. Even before I touched you. You knew. I suspected, Zane corrected harshly. When you looked at me in that hall, I felt something I haven't felt in 5 years. A pull. A recognition. But it's impossible. Arya is dead. Her soul is sealed. You're just what? Just human. Ella met his gaze steadily. What if Mara is right? What if I'm her? Reborn? Then you're a death sentence, Zane said flatly. And I should kill you now, before the seal breaks completely. Ella's breath caught, but she didn't flinch. Then why haven't you? Zane stared at her, his expression caught between fury and something that looked dangerously like longing. Because I'm a fool, he said quietly. Because looking at you makes me remember what it felt like to want something. To hope? His hand lifted, trembling, stopping just inches from her face. And because even knowing what you are, what you'll cost me, I can't bring myself to hurt you. Ella's heart hammered against her ribs. So what do? We. Zane let out a bitter laugh. There is no we. There's you, getting as far from me as possible. And there's me, finding another witch to reinforce the seal before. He never finished the sentence. The door exploded inward. 3 wolves burst into the room, massive, snarling, their eyes glowing red. Not the amber of normal wolves. Red. The color of blood magic. Of possession. Assassins. Zane roared, shifting mid-movement. His body erupted into fur and muscle, a wolf so large he blocked out the moonlight streaming through the windows. But he was weak. The seal's pain had drained him. When the first assassin lunged, Zane barely dodged, his movements sluggish. The second wolf went straight for Ella. She screamed, throwing her arms up uselessly. The wolf's jaws opened wide, teeth glinting. And then Zane was there, taking the blow meant for her. Blood sprayed across the floor as fangs sank into his shoulder. No, Ella didn't think. She just moved. Her hand shot out, pressing against Zane's scar through his fur. The silver light exploded. But this time, it didn't stop. It poured out of the scar like a flood, wrapping around both of them, merging their souls in a way that felt ancient and inevitable and utterly, completely right. The seal shattered, and the mate bond snapped into place. The world went silent. Not quiet, silent. As if every sound had been swallowed by the explosion of silver light that now cocooned Ella and Zane in a sphere of pure, thrumming energy. The assassin wolves slammed against the barrier and were thrown backward, their red eyes wide with shock. And then Ella felt it. Him. Not just his presence, but his everything. His pain, sharp and ancient, carved into his soul like that scar was carved into his chest. His rage, burning like wildfire, directed at himself more than anyone else. His fear, gods, his fear, a terror so profound it made her want to weep. Fear of losing control. Fear of the curse. Fear of hurting the people he'd sworn to protect. Fear of losing her again. Again. The word echoed through her mind, but it wasn't her thought. It was his. She could hear him, feel him, as if they shared the same heartbeat. What have you done? Zane's voice filled her head, raw with anguish. Ella, what have you done? I saved you, she thought back, and somehow, impossibly, he heard her. You've killed us both. The barrier shattered. Ella gasped as reality slammed back, sound, movement, danger. Zane shifted back to human form, his shoulder bleeding heavily, his eyes wild as he grabbed her arm and yanked her behind him. Run, he commanded, his voice hoarse. I'm not leaving you. Run. The three assassin wolves circled them, their movements synchronized, predatory. But something was different now. They hesitated, their red eyes fixed not on Zane, but on the space between him and Ella. On the faint silver thread that now visibly connected them, glowing like starlight. The bond, one of them growled, his voice distorted. It's complete. Good, another said, lips pulling back in a grotesque smile. The curse can finally awaken. Zane snarled, positioning himself fully in front of Ella. You're working for the witch. The one who created the prophecy. We're working for the truth, the first wolf said. Your mate was never meant to die, Alpha King. She was meant to be your destruction. And now that she's returned, his gaze locked on Ella. The prophecy can finally be fulfilled. Before Zane could respond, the door burst open again. This time, it was Mara, flanked by a dozen pack warriors, their eyes blazing gold with loyalty and fury. Protect the Alpha, Mara commanded. Chaos erupted. The pack warriors launched themselves at the assassins. Bodies collided, claws flashed, blood painted the floor. Zane shifted again, his massive wolf form joining the fray despite his injury. But Ella could feel his weakness through the bond, a hollow, draining sensation that made her own knees buckle. He's dying. The thought wasn't dramatic. It was fact. The seal breaking hadn't just completed the bond, it had torn open an old wound, one that had been festering for 5 years. And now it was bleeding out his strength. Ella. Mara grabbed her arm, dragging her toward the door. We need to get you out of here. No. He needs help. He needs you alive. Mara's amber eyes were fierce. If you die, the bond breaks and he dies with you. Do you understand? You're his anchor now. Ella's mind reeled, but she let Mara pull her into the hallway. Behind them, the sounds of battle raged, snarls, crashes, the wet sound of claws meeting flesh. They ran through corridors that blurred together, Mara's grip never loosening. Other wolves appeared, servants, guards, all staring at Ella with expressions ranging from confusion to outright fear. They can see it, Ella realized. They can see the bond. The silver thread connecting her to Zane stretched behind her like a lifeline, pulsing with his heartbeat. Even here, rooms away, she could feel every blow he took, every surge of pain. Mara dragged her into a library vast, filled with ancient books and scrolls. She shoved Ella into a chair and immediately began pulling volumes from the shelves, moving with frantic purpose. What are you doing? Ella asked, her voice shaking. Research, Mara said tersely. The prophecy that started all of this, it came from a text called the Libram Vati, the Book of Fate. I need to find it. Why? Because prophecies can be interpreted differently depending on who reads them. Mara slammed a book onto the table, flipping through pages. The witch who helped Zane seal the bond, she's the one who told him that claiming his mate would trigger the curse. But what if she lied? Ella's heart lurched. Why would she lie? Power. Revenge. Any number of reasons. Mara grabbed another book. Zane was the strongest alpha in generations. If someone wanted to weaken him, what better way than to make him fear the one thing that could make him stronger? His mate. The bond pulsed, and Ella gasped as pain lanced through her shoulder, Zane's shoulder. He'd been injured again. I can feel him, she whispered. Every time he's hurt, I feel it. Mara looked up, her expression grim. That's the bond. It connects you in every way, physical, emotional, spiritual. Which means she hesitated. Which means what? Which means if the curse is real, you'll feel that too. You'll feel the pack dying. You'll feel their deaths as if they were your own. Ella's blood ran cold. How do we stop it? I don't know, Mara admitted. But we need to find out fast because... A howl split the night. Long, agonized, unmistakably Zane's. Ella shot to her feet, the bond screaming in her chest. Something's wrong. Something's really wrong. Mara's face went pale. The curse. It's starting. How do you know? Because I can feel it too. Mara pressed a hand to her chest, her breathing labored. Every wolf bonded to this pack can feel it. A pressure. A darkness creeping in. Ella didn't wait. She ran. Ella, wait. Mara called after her, but Ella was already gone, following the silver thread back through the corridors, back toward Zane. She found him in the courtyard, still in wolf form, surrounded by his pack. But they weren't fighting anymore. They were all frozen, staring at the sky, at the darkness spreading across the stars like ink through water. Zane shifted back to human, his eyes finding Ella immediately. And in them, she saw something that broke her heart. Resignation. It's happening, he said quietly. The curse is awake. And there's nothing we can do to stop it. The darkness wasn't just in the sky. Ella felt it crawling through the bond like poison, cold, ancient, hungry. It wrapped around her chest, squeezing until she couldn't breathe. Around her, pack members collapsed to their knees, gasping, clutching at their hearts as the curse burrowed into them. Zane! Ella stumbled toward him, but her legs gave out halfway. He caught her before she hit the ground, his arms locking around her waist. I'm sorry, he whispered against her hair, and she felt his anguish like a blade through her ribs. I'm so sorry. I should have killed you the moment I saw you. I should have. Stop. Ella grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. His eyes were drowning in guilt, in self-hatred so profound it made her want to scream. This isn't your fault, isn't it? His laugh was broken. I sealed my mate's soul. I broke the natural order. And now the universe is collecting its debt. No. Mara's voice cut through the chaos. She stood at the courtyard entrance, the librum fatty clutched in her hands, her face pale but determined. That's what she wanted you to believe. Zane's head snapped toward her. What are you talking about? The witch. Morgana. Mara moved forward, opening the ancient book. I found it, Zane. The original prophecy. And it's not what she told you. Hope and terror roared across Zane's face. Read it. Mara's hands trembled as she found the page. When the Alpha King claims his true mate, the bond will break the veil between worlds. Death will walk among the living, and blood will feed the earth. She looked up. That's what Morgana told you, isn't it? Zane nodded, his jaw tight. But that's only half the prophecy. Mara's voice strengthened. Listen to the rest. Unless the bond is pure and willing, forged in sacrifice and choice. Then shall the curse be broken, the veil restored, and the Alpha King shall rule with his mate beside him, stronger than any who came before. Silence. Zane stared at Mara as if she'd spoken in a language he couldn't comprehend. That's not possible, Morgana said. Morgana lied. Mara slammed the book shut. She gave you half a prophecy and watched you destroy yourself trying to prevent it. Don't you see? The curse was never about the bond itself. It was about the bond being forced. Completed without choice, without consent. Ella's mind raced, pieces clicking into place. The seal, she breathed. When you sealed Aria's soul, you took away her choice. You made the decision for both of you. Zane's face went ashen. I was trying to save her. Save everyone. I know, Ella said softly. But the prophecy required the bond to be willing. Both of you, choosing each other freely. When you sealed her soul, you violated that. You triggered the curse yourself. Which means Morgana wanted this, Mara added, her voice hard. She wanted you to seal the bond. Wanted you to activate the curse. The question is why? As if summoned by her name, A laugh echoed across the courtyard. Cold, familiar, triumphant. A woman materialized from the shadows, tall, ethereal, with silver hair that moved like smoke and eyes black as empty space. Morgana, the witch who had helped Zane 5 years ago. The witch who had sealed his mate's soul. The witch who had orchestrated everything. Finally, Morgana purred, her voice like silk over steel. I was beginning to think you'd never figure it out. Zane shifted instantly, his wolf form erupting between Morgana and Ella. His snarl shook the stones beneath their feet. Morgana didn't even flinch. Oh, don't be dramatic, darling. I'm not here to hurt your little mate. Not anymore, anyway. She examined her nails casually. I'm here to collect what you owe me. I owe you nothing, Zane growled. Don't you? Morgana's smile was cruel. I gave you exactly what you asked for 5 years ago. A way to save your pack. A way to stop the prophecy. It's not my fault you didn't ask the right questions. You manipulated me, Zane snarled. You twisted the prophecy. I did nothing of the sort. Morgana's black eyes glittered. I told you the truth. Just not all of it. That's the beauty of prophecies, Alpha King. They're always true. Just not in the way you expect. Mara stepped forward, the book still clutched in her hands. What do you want, Morgana? What I've always wanted. Morgana's gaze slid to Ella, and something hungry flickered in those empty eyes. Her soul. The one Zane so helpfully bound to his scar 5 years ago. The one that's been slowly, deliciously ripening inside that seal, growing more powerful with every passing day. Ella's blood turned to ice. Why? Because, sweet child, your soul isn't just any soul. Morgana moved closer, and the darkness in the sky moved with her, writhing like a living thing. When Zane sealed his mate's soul, he didn't just trap it. He transformed it, filled it with 5 years of his pain, his power, his alpha dominance. It's been marinating in the strongest wolf magic in the realm. And now her smile widened. Now it's ready to be harvested. For what? Zane demanded. Immortality. Morgana said the word like a prayer. True immortality. Not the half-life of vampires or the borrowed time of witches. Real, eternal life. All I need is a soul powerful enough to anchor the spell. And you, dear Alpha King, have been cultivating the perfect one for me. Understanding crashed over Ella like a wave. This was always your plan. From the beginning. Oh yes. Morgana's laugh was delighted. I knew Zane would come to me eventually. Powerful, noble, desperate to save his pack. All I had to do was give him a solution that would create the very problem he feared. Seal the bond, activate the curse, wait for the mate to be reborn, and then she spread her hands. Collect my prize. Over my dead body, Zane snarled. That can be arranged, Morgana said pleasantly. She raised her hand, and the darkness descended. It hit the pack like a tidal wave. Wolves screamed, collapsed, their bodies convulsing as the curse ripped through them. Zane staggered, blood trickling from his nose, but he held his ground. Stop. Ella screamed. Please stop. I'll give you what you want. Just don't hurt them. Ella, no, Zane tried to reach for her, but the curse drove him to his knees. That's a good girl, Morgana cooed. Come here, darling. Let me take that troublesome soul off your hands. Ella stepped forward, her heart hammering. The bond screamed at her to stop, to run, but she couldn't. Not while Zane and his pack were dying. But as she moved, her hand brushed against her chest, and she felt it. The warmth. The silver light. Still there, pulsing beneath her skin. The bond. And suddenly, Ella understood. You're wrong, she said quietly. Morgana paused. Excuse me. You're wrong, Ella repeated, louder now. The soul you want, Aria's soul, it's not in me anymore. Don't be ridiculous. It's in the bond. Ella looked at Zane, at the silver thread connecting them, glowing brighter with every word. When the seal broke, her soul didn't just return to me. It merged with both of us. We share it now. Which means... You can't take it without killing us both, Zane finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. Morgana's face twisted with rage. No, you can't. We already did, Ella said. And together, she and Zane let the bond flare. The silver light erupted from them both like a supernova. It slammed into Morgana, and for the first time, the witch's confident mask shattered. She screamed, a sound like tearing metal, as the light burned against her darkness, pushing it back, unraveling the curse she'd spent 5 years weaving. But Morgana was ancient, powerful, and desperate. You think you've won? She shrieked, her form flickering between solid and shadow. You think sharing a soul protects you? I'll just take you both. She raised both hands, and the darkness exploded outward, not up into the sky, but down, diving into the earth. The ground cracked beneath their feet. The courtyard stones split apart, and from the fissures came something worse than darkness. Wraiths. Dozens of them, pouring out like smoke given form, twisted, howling spirits with empty eyes and grasping claws. The souls of wolves who died under Morgana's curses over centuries, bound to her will, forced to serve even in death. Kill them, Morgana commanded. Kill them both and bring me their souls. The wraiths descended. Zane shifted, roaring a command that sent his pack warriors into action. But they were already weakened by the curse, already dying. When the wraiths touched them, the wolves collapsed, their life force draining away like water through cupped hands. No! Zane lunged for his fallen warriors, but Morgana's magic wrapped around him like chains, slamming him into the ground. He struggled, every muscle straining, but the curse had sapped too much of his strength. Ella ran to him, but a wraith intercepted her, its touch like ice, its fingers wrapping around her throat. She couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. The world started to dim. Then Mara was there, chanting in an ancient language, a protective ward blazing from her hands. The wraith recoiled, and Ella fell, gasping. The book. Mara thrust the Libram Fatty into Ella's hands. There's a counterspell. Page 73. But you need to read it together, both of you. The bond has to be complete. Ella scrambled to her feet, clutching the book, dodging wraiths as she ran toward Zane. He was still pinned by Morgana's magic, blood streaming from a cut on his temple, his wolf form flickering as his strength failed. Zane! Ella dropped beside him, opening the book with trembling hands. I need you to. A wraith slammed into her from behind. The book flew from her grasp, skidding across the cracked courtyard. Ella hit the ground hard, her vision exploding into stars. The wraith loomed over her, its empty eyes boring into hers, and she felt it, her soul, being pulled toward those gaping voids. This is how I die, she thought distantly, before I even got to really live. Ella. Zane's roar shook the world. The silver bond between them blazed like the sun, and somehow, impossibly, he tore through Morgana's chains. His massive wolf form barreled into the wraith, teeth closing around its throat. The spirit dissolved with a shriek. But the effort cost him. Zane collapsed beside Ella, shifting back to human, his body racked with tremors. The curse was killing him. She could feel it through the bond, his life force flickering like a candle in a storm. No, no, no. Ella pulled him into her lap, her hands pressing against his chest, against the scar that had started everything. Stay with me. Please, Zane, stay with me. His eyes, those beautiful, pale silver eyes, found hers. Run, he whispered. While she's distracted, take the book. Find another alpha who can break the curse. Save the pack. I'm not leaving you. You have to. His hand lifted, trembling, cupping her face. I was dead the moment I sealed Aria's soul. I've been living on borrowed time for 5 years. But you, his thumb brushed her cheekbone. You have a whole life ahead of you. Don't let my mistakes steal that from you. Tears streamed down Ella's face. You're not a mistake. This bond isn't a mistake. Isn't it? Zane's smile was heartbreaking. I've brought you nothing but pain. Death. I should have let you go the moment I saw you. But you didn't. Ella leaned down, pressing her forehead to his. You held on. You fought. Because somewhere, deep down, you knew. We're meant to be together. We're meant to destroy each other, Zane corrected softly. No. Ella's voice hardened with certainty. We're meant to save each other. That's what the prophecy really means. Don't you see? The bond has to be willing. A choice. And I'm choosing you, Zane. Right now. Even knowing it might kill me. I choose you. Something shifted in Zane's eyes. Hope. Fragile and terrifying. Ella. Morgana's laughter cut through the moment like a knife. How touching. How absolutely precious. She stood over them, the wraiths circling like vultures. But love won't save you, little girl. Love is just another form of weakness. You're wrong, Mara said, appearing beside them, battered but defiant. She held the Librum Fati, open to page 73. Love is the only thing that can break a curse born from its absence. Morgana's eyes narrowed. What are you? The counterspell requires a willing sacrifice, Mara read aloud. Two souls, bound by true love, choosing each other freely. One must offer their life. The other must accept it. Together, they become the key that locks the darkness away. Ella's heart stopped. One of us has to die? Yes, Mara said quietly. To break the curse, to stop Morgana, one of you must choose to die for the other. Willingly. Completely. That sacrifice will purify the bond and seal the darkness forever. Zane sat up immediately, despite his weakness. Then it's me. I'm the one who caused this. No. Ella gripped his hand, her voice steady. It has to be me. Ella, you can't. I can. She met his eyes, willing him to understand. The prophecy says the bond must be willing. A choice. If you sacrifice yourself, you're just repeating what you did to Arya, making the decision for both of us. Taking away my choice. She squeezed his hand. But if I choose to save you, if I willingly give my life for yours, then the bond is complete. Pure. Exactly what the prophecy requires. No. Zane's voice broke. I won't let you. I can't lose you again. You won't lose me. Ella smiled through her tears. You'll carry me. In the bond. In your heart. Forever. Ella, please. Do you accept my sacrifice? She asked, the formal words of the spell falling from her lips like a vow. Do you accept my life, given freely, to save you and your pack? Zane's face crumpled. Every wall he'd built, every defense shattered. Don't make me do this, he whispered. Don't make me say yes. You have to. Ella kissed him soft, gentle, final. I love you, Zane. I don't remember Arya, don't remember the life before. But I know this, I've been looking for you my whole life. And now that I've found you, I'm never letting go. She pulled back, looking at Mara. Read the spell. No. Zane tried to grab her, but Mara was already chanting, and Ella's body began to glow, not silver this time, but gold. Pure, warm, radiant. Do you accept? Ella asked again, her voice fading. Zane's answer was a sob. Yes. Gods forgive me, yes. And Ella smiled one last time before the light consumed her. The light didn't just consume Ella. It detonated. Golden fire exploded outward in a shockwave that sent wraiths screaming back into the void, that made Morgana shriek and shield her face. The curse, that ancient, festering darkness, writhed and hissed as the light burned through it, unmaking it thread by thread. Zane felt Ella's life force draining through the bond, pouring out of her and into him, into the pack, into the very earth beneath their feet. Her sacrifice was feeding the counterspell, fueling it with something Morgana had never understood. Love. Not the passionate, consuming kind. Not the obsessive, possessive kind. The kind that gave everything and asked for nothing in return. No, Zane gasped, clutching Ella's glowing form. She was fading, becoming translucent, her body dissolving into pure light. No, this isn't right. This can't be the answer. But through the bond, he felt her. Not pain, not fear. Peace. It's okay. Her voice whispered through their connection. I'm not afraid. I'm finally whole. You can't leave me, Zane choked out. I just found you. I can't lose you again. You won't. Look inside yourself, Zane. Really look. He did. And what he found shattered him. Their souls weren't separate anymore. Ella's sacrifice hadn't just broken the curse, it had completed the bond in a way the original sealing never could. She was inside him now. Not trapped like Arya had been, but merged. Part of him. Part of the pack. Part of everything. But her body was still dying. No. Zane's voice dropped to a growl. His wolf surged forward, refusing to accept this. I won't let you go. Not like this. Not when he looked up at Mara, desperation making his voice crack. There has to be another way. The spell, the book, there has to be something. Mara's face was wet with tears, but she shook her head. The sacrifice is complete, Zane. The curse is breaking. If you stop it now. I don't care. Zane roared. What's the point of saving the pack if she dies? What's the point of any of this? The point, a new voice said, is that she taught you how to love again. Everyone froze. The voice had come from Ella, but not Ella. Her fading form flickered, and suddenly there were two images overlaid on each other. Ella, the fragile human girl. And beneath her, glowing brighter, Arya. The she-wolf Zane had sealed away 5 years ago. Arya? Zane breathed, his voice breaking on the name. The wolf spirit smiled, Ella's smile, but older, sadder, infinitely wiser. Hello, my love. It's been a long time. You're still here. Inside her. Inside the bond. I never left, Arya said softly. When you sealed my soul, you didn't destroy it. You preserved it. Protected it. And when the universe gave me a second chance, when I was reborn as Ella, I carried those memories, that love, buried so deep even I didn't know it was there. Zane's hands trembled against Ella's, against Arya's fading form. Then you know what I did. How I chose the pack over you. You chose love, Arya corrected. Not romantic love. Not the bond. But love for your people. Your family. That's who you are, Zane. That's who you've always been. And I never blamed you for it. But I killed you. You saved me, Arya said firmly. The curse would have used our bond to destroy everything we cared about. You made an impossible choice, and you've carried the guilt of it for 5 years. But you were always meant to find me again. As Ella. As someone new. Someone who could choose you freely, without the prophecy hanging over us. Zane shook his head, tears streaming down his face. But the sacrifice, she's dying, Arya. She's dying, and I can't. You can, Arya interrupted. You can save her. Save us. How? The word was a desperate plea. Arya Zella's form pulsed with golden light. The sacrifice broke the curse, Zane. But it doesn't have to be permanent. The spell requires a life, but it doesn't specify whose. Her eyes, warm and brown and so achingly familiar, met his. I already died once. My life was already given. But your life, your full life, the one you've been denying yourself for 5 years, that's never been lived. Understanding crashed over him. You want me to? Accept yourself, Arya said simply. The guilt, the pain, the love you've been too afraid to feel. Let it all in. Choose to live fully, not just survive. That's the sacrifice the spell really requires. Not death, but rebirth. Mara stepped forward, her voice urgent. She's right. The prophecy said one must offer their life. But life isn't just breathing. It's living, feeling, loving. You've been dead inside for 5 years, Zane. The curse fed on that emptiness. If you choose to truly live again. The balance shifts, Zane finished, comprehension dawning. The sacrifice becomes my old life. My guilt. My fear. Yes. Arya's hand, still glowing, still fading, touched his face. Will you do it? Will you let yourself be happy again? For me? For Ella? For us. Zane looked down at the woman in his arms, both of them, past and present, separate and together, dying and yet somehow more alive than anything he'd ever felt. 5 years of grief pressed down on him. 5 years of believing he deserved nothing but pain. But beneath that weight, something else stirred. Hope. I don't know how, he admitted, his voice raw. Yes, you do. Arya smiled. You choose it. Right now. You choose to forgive yourself. You choose to love without fear. You choose us. Zane closed his eyes. Every instinct screamed at him to refuse, to keep punishing himself, to believe he didn't deserve this. But through the bond, he felt Ella, felt her warmth, her courage, her absolute certainty that he was worth saving. And he realized she was right. He'd spent 5 years trying to protect everyone by locking himself away. But real strength wasn't in distance. It was in connection, in vulnerability, in daring to love even when it terrified you. Zane opened his eyes. "I choose us," he said clearly. "I choose to live. I choose to love you, both of you, without guilt, without fear, without holding back." He pulled Ella closer, his voice strengthening with each word. "I accept your sacrifice, and I offer mine in return. My old life, my isolation, my belief that I have to be alone. I give it all up. For you. For this." The golden light blazed. And this time it didn't fade. It poured back into Ella, flooding her body with warmth and life and power. Her translucent form solidified. Color returned to her cheeks. Her chest rose with a gasping breath. And when her eyes opened, they were brown, but flecked with silver. Ella and Arya together. "Whole." "Zane," she whispered. He laughed, a sound of pure relief and joy. "I'm here. We're here. We're alive." Around them, the pack began to stir. The curse shattered like glass, the darkness dissolving into morning light. Wolves groaned, sitting up, staring at their alpha king and his mate with wonder. But Morgana screamed. "No!" Morgana's shriek tore through the dawn. "This isn't possible. The curse, the sacrifice, you can't just rewrite the rules." "We didn't rewrite anything," Ella said, rising to her feet with Zane's help. Her voice was stronger now, layered with something ancient and powerful, Arya's wolf spirit, awake and merged with her human soul. "We just understood them better than you did." Morgana's form flickered, her power unraveling as the curse she'd woven for 5 years collapsed. But desperation made her dangerous. She raised both hands, and the remaining wraiths, dozens of them, surged forward in a final, suicidal assault. "If I can't have your souls," Morgana snarled, "then I'll destroy them." The wraiths descended like a tsunami of darkness. But Zane and Ella stood their ground, fingers intertwined, the bond between them blazing like a star. And this time, when the silver light erupted from them, it wasn't defensive. It was claiming. The light swept across the courtyard, and when it touched the wraiths, something impossible happened. The tortured spirits stopped. Their howling ceased. Their forms, twisted by centuries of Morgana's control, began to shift, straightening, clarifying, becoming the wolves they'd been before death. What are you doing?" Morgana gasped. "Setting them free," Ella said. Through the bond, she could feel them now, all those trapped souls, forced to serve even in death. "You bound them with pain and darkness. But our bond is stronger. It's built on choice, on sacrifice, on love." She released the souls. One by one, the wraiths dissolved not into nothing, but into light. Pure, clean, finally at peace. They rose like embers toward the breaking dawn, their grateful whispers echoing through the bond before they faded. "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you." Morgana staggered, her power hemorrhaging with every freed soul. No, you've ruined everything. Centuries of work. Centuries of slavery," Zane corrected, his voice cold as winter. He stepped forward, and his pack rose with him, recovered now, strengthened by the bond's power. They moved as one, surrounding the witch. "You've tortured countless wolves for your own ambition. You manipulated me, used my love as a weapon, and tried to murder my mate. Twice. You can't kill me," Morgana hissed, but fear crept into her voice. "I'm immortal. Ancient. I've survived longer than your bloodline." "Immortal doesn't mean invincible," Mara said, stepping forward with the Librum Fatty open in her hands. "And this book has more than just prophecies, Morgana. It has consequences." She began to read, her voice ringing with authority. The words were in the old language, the tongue of the first wolves, when magic and nature were one. Ella didn't understand the syllables, but she felt their power through the bond. felt them wrapping around Morgana like chains, binding her, pulling her toward judgment. "No," Morgana screamed. "You can't, I won't. You will answer for your crimes," Zane said quietly. "Not to me. Not to any mortal authority." He looked up at the sky, where the dawn was breaking in shades of gold and crimson. To them. The air split open. Not violently, gently, like a curtain being drawn back. And through the opening came light, not golden like Ella's sacrifice, but white and pure and absolute. The light of the moon goddess herself, the divine force that blessed all wolfkind. And with the light came her. A woman or the shape of one made of moonlight and starfire. Her face was ageless, her eyes ancient and knowing. She looked at Zane and Ella, and warmth flooded through the bond. "Well done, my children," the moon goddess's voice resonated in their minds. "You have learned what so few understand. That true strength lies not in power, but in love. Not in control, but in surrender." Then her gaze turned to Morgana, and the warmth vanished. "Morgana Nightshade, you have twisted my gifts, enslaved my children, and perverted the sacred bonds I created. Your time in this realm is ended." "No." Morgana threw herself forward, magic crackling desperately around her. "I won't go. I won't be judged by you or anyone. I am eternal." The moon goddess raised a hand. Morgana froze mid-lunge, her magic sputtering and dying. The witch's form began to crack, light bleeding through the fissures like water through a breaking dam. "Please," Morgana whispered, all her arrogance stripped away, leaving only terror. "Please, I was only trying to survive. You were only thinking of yourself," the moon goddess said, not unkindly but with absolute finality. "And in doing so, you caused centuries of suffering. That debt must be paid." Morgana shattered. Not into death, into unmaking. Her essence dissolved, pulled into the moon goddess's light, judged and found wanting. Her screams faded into nothing, and then even the memory of her seemed to blur, as if the universe itself was erasing her existence. The moon goddess turned back to Zane and Ella. "The curse is broken. The threat is ended. But your journey is not complete." "What do you mean?" Ella asked, her voice small in the presence of the divine. The moon goddess smiled. "You carry two souls now, child. Arya and Ella, merged but not yet balanced. You must learn to walk as both human and wolf, past and present. It will not be easy." "We'll manage," Zane said, pulling Ella closer. "Together." "Yes." The moon goddess's approval washed over them like warm rain. "Together. As you were always meant to be." She began to fade, the rift in the air closing. "Rule well, Alpha King. Love deeply, chosen mate. And remember, the strongest bonds are forged in fire." The light vanished. Dawn broke fully across the courtyard, painting everything in gold. The pack stood in awed silence, staring at their Alpha King and his mate, the woman who had touched the untouchable, broken the unbreakable curse, and saved them all. Then, as one, they howled. The sound was primal, joyous, a celebration of survival and new beginnings. It echoed across the mountains, carrying news of their victory to every wolf within 100 miles. Zane threw his head back and joined them, his howl deeper and more powerful than any other. And beside him, Ella felt something stir inside her. The wolf. Arya's wolf, waking after 5 years of sleep, stretching and testing this new body. Ella gasped as she felt it, not foreign, but right. Like finding a piece of herself she hadn't known was missing. "Do you want to shift?" Zane asked softly. Ella looked at him, her mate, her king, her impossible second chance, and smiled. Yes. 3 months later, the Blackthorn estate looked like a different world. The darkness that had clung to the stone walls was gone, replaced by warmth and light. Windows that had been shuttered for years stood open, letting in autumn breezes that carried the scent of pine and wildflowers. Laughter, actual laughter, echoed through corridors that had only known silence and fear. The pack had changed too. Where once they'd walked on eggshells, terrified of their king's cold wrath, now they moved with purpose and joy. Children played in the courtyards. Wolves trained together, their bonds stronger than ever. The curse's shadow had lifted, and in its place, hope had taken root. Ella stood on the balcony of what was now their chambers, hers and Zane's, watching the sun set over the forest. She'd shifted earlier, running patrol with the pack, and her muscles still hummed with the residual energy. Her wolf was smaller than most, a legacy of her human birth, but fast and clever, with fur the color of moonlight. Aria's wolf reborn, but also entirely her own. "You're thinking too loud," Zane said, emerging from the bedroom. He wrapped his arms around her waist from behind, pulling her back against his chest. "I can feel it through the bond." Ella smiled, leaning into him. The bond had become second nature now, a constant warmth in her chest, a thread connecting her to Zane that pulsed with his emotions, his thoughts, his love. It no longer overwhelmed her. Instead, it grounded her. "I'm thinking about how much has changed," she said softly. 3 months ago, I was a servant who'd never even seen a wolf. Now I'm... Luna, Zane finished, pressing a kiss to her temple. "My mate. My queen. The woman who saved an entire pack." "We saved them," Ella corrected. "Together." "Together," Zane agreed. His arms tightened around her. "I still can't believe you're real sometimes. That you're here. That I get to hold you like this." Ella turned in his embrace, reaching up to trace the scar on his chest. It was still there, it would always be there, but it no longer glowed with that eerie silver light. Now it was just a scar, a reminder of what they'd survived. "Does it still hurt?" she asked, echoing the question that had started everything. Zane caught her hand, bringing it to his lips. "Not anymore. Not since you." A comfortable silence settled between them, broken only by the sounds of the pack below. Then Zane spoke again, his voice uncertain in a way that made Ella's heart squeeze. "Do you ever regret it? Choosing this life? You could have left after the curse broke. Could have gone anywhere, been anyone. Instead, you're stuck here, with a broken alpha king and a pack that still doesn't fully understand what you are." Ella looked up at him, this man who'd been so cold, so isolated, so convinced he deserved nothing but punishment. The walls he'd built around his heart had crumbled, but the scars remained. He still doubted, still feared that one day she'd realize she'd made a mistake. "Zane," she said firmly, cupping his face. "I chose you. Not because I had to. Not because of prophecy or destiny or the bond. I chose you because when I look at you, I see someone who loves so fiercely he was willing to die alone rather than risk the people he cared about. I see someone who's been carrying impossible guilt for 5 years and still managed to be kind to a terrified servant girl. I see someone worth loving." Zane's eyes glistened. "Ella. And yes," she continued, "I'm still learning how to be a wolf. Still figuring out how to balance Aria's memories with my own. Still making mistakes every day. But I'm doing it with you. And that makes it all worth it." Zane kissed her then, deep and thorough and filled with everything words couldn't convey. When they finally broke apart, his forehead rested against hers. "I love you," he whispered. "Both of you. Ella and Aria. My past and my future." "We love you too," Ella whispered back and felt Aria's presence stir inside her, not separate, but integrated, a part of her soul that would always carry those old memories, that old love, transformed into something new. A howl rose from the courtyard, Mara, calling them to the evening meal. The pack gathered every night now, a tradition Ella had started. Breaking bread together, sharing stories, rebuilding the bonds that the curse had frayed. "We should go," Zane said reluctantly. "In a minute." Ella pulled him back for one more kiss. "I want to remember this. Just us. Before we go back to being the Alpha King and his Luna." Zane smiled, a real smile, the kind that transformed his entire face. "We're always just us, love. The titles don't change that." They descended together, hand in hand, the bond singing between them. The great hall was filled with wolves, warriors and servants, young and old, all of them family now. When Zane and Ella entered, the noise didn't stop. No one bowed or went silent. They just made room, welcomed them, treated them as equals who happened to lead. Mara raised a glass. To the Alpha King and Luna. May their bond never break. May their bond never break, the pack echoed. Ella looked around the hall at Cade, the head servant who'd been terrified of Zane and now advised him on domestic matters. At the young wolves who'd been dying from the curse and now trained with renewed vigor. At Mara, who'd become not just an advisor but a friend. At Zane, who met her gaze with such open love it made her breath catch. This is home, Ella thought. Not the estate. Not the title. But these people, this bond, this love. Later that night, after the meal and the stories and the laughter, Ella and Zane stood once more on their balcony. The moon was full, bathing everything in silver light. Do you remember what you asked me? Ella said quietly. That first day in the hall? Zane pulled her close. I asked what you were. And I said I didn't know. Ella smiled up at him. But I know now. What are you, Ella Blackthorn? She kissed him softly, feeling the bond pulse with warmth and certainty and endless love. I'm yours. I'm the Pax. I'm the girl who touched your scar and wasn't afraid. She pressed her hand over his heart, over that jagged silver line. I'm the woman who taught the Alpha King how to love again. And I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. Zane held her as the moon rose higher, as the pack settled into sleep below, as the bond between them glowed bright and unbreakable. The prophecy had been fulfilled. The curse was broken. The darkness was defeated. And in its place, something far more powerful remained. Love. Not the kind that destroyed, but the kind that healed, that strengthened, that transformed broken souls into something whole. Together, they would rule. Together, they would face whatever challenges came. Together, they were unstoppable. Because everyone had feared the Alpha King, except the girl who touched his scar. And in the end, her courage had saved them all. And there we have it, beautiful souls. A story of fear, fate, sacrifice, and a love powerful enough to break ancient curses. What did you think? Did the ending satisfy you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more emotional, addictive stories like this one. Where are you watching from? Let me know. Until next time, keep believing in the power of love even when it seems impossible. See you in the next story.